Hi, this is Tom Jacobs from tdjacobs.com and also healingsuicide.com. I'm an evolutionary astrologer, energy worker, channel, and also a psychic medium. And there's a lot of healing work and a lot of kinds of classes and things going on at tdjacobs.com. This is Unraveling Karma, episode 29. So in a moment, I'm going to share the screen and do the episode. You may have recently seen episode 28, but then wondered where episodes 1 through 27 are. Well, most of that original run, which were audio 9 and 10 years ago, or 8 and 9 years ago, they're audio. Most of them are available at my blog at tdjacobs.com. One of the categories or tags is Unraveling Karma podcast. So you can hear those. And basically I would take 10 or so minutes, answer a couple questions from different people, in each episode, trying to teach you about how I approach the multi-life journey and karma, and also how to change it. There aren't people running around out there who teach you how to change karma, but for my channeling work and being a medium and working with the souls of dead people, there are definitely ways to change karma, and that's one of the things I love teaching. So recently I decided to revive Unraveling Karma as a video cast. Anyway, whatever. So this is it. This is episode 29. Let me tell you, if you want to learn astrology with me, where to start is Evolutionary Astrology Basics 1. It's not an astrology basics course. It's an evolutionary astrology basics course, the way that I teach it that's unique. So I did spend a lot of time studying with Stephen Forrest, but I do different things. I have a somewhat unique approach, and the way I explain soul and karma and reincarnation is unique, and that's covered in that Basics 1 class. I am developing further classes to go with that. But anyway, so there's that option. The other option, you can get your own Soul's Journey Soundbite. In a half an hour, I do an overview of your multi-life journey and covering all the major important themes that you are working with now and in many lifetimes. So that's an option, Soul's Journey Soundbite at tdjacobs.com. And also another learning tool that I've developed is the Soul's Journey Soundbite database, where there are, I believe it's 580 at this point, of these overview readings that are searchable online with a subscription, with a membership. And then you can listen to my delineations and learn how I work through charts, and also how I teach people how to change karma. Sorry, my microphone's swiveling and I'm trying to figure out why. Anyway, okay, good. So let's share the screen and get into this. We have two people today that we're answering questions for. And okay, so there we go. Unraveling Karma, episode 29. Today's September 9th, 2019. The first person is Gina. Here's her birth date of March 29th, 1968, 7:30 a.m. in Seattle, Washington. And her question, actually, I have it on my phone here just to make sure I can read it. She says, North Node, Moon, Saturn, square the Midheaven from the 12th house. What's the meaning? Career struggles? No career? Or is my job to take care of my mother? Please help. Oh, my heart goes out to you. Okay, so first of all, I got to explain a couple of things. Yeah. The square of the midheaven to the node, to the south node. Yes, but there's something really important to look at, which goes into how I would read your chart from a karmic or multi-life angle. And one of the things is the south node for you is in the 6th house. So you in many lifetimes have been trained to see the world through the lens of teamwork, sacrificing, egoic desire, hard work ethic is strong. Like 6th house contains all the parts of life which require you to take one for the team, just get your nose on the grindstone, punch that clock every day, even if you don't like it, right? To learn to sacrifice egoic desire, to be useful, to be helpful, all the parts of life. So it can be work we love, but it can be work we don't love. So in a bunch of lifetimes, you're being shown that you have to, this is an extreme way to say it, but you have to submit to what's expected of you, chores, the never-ending chore list, tasks, being of service, being helpful, right? Being helpful, right? Being of service. That's in Libra. So you're oriented toward responding to others' needs. Deep emotional and behavioral conditioning you have experienced in order to train you to be that way. So you're supposed to be there for others. That's like a core karmic belief that you have. Okay, now, then we have the midheaven square that. So an unresolved issue for you, I don't say skipped step or missed step. That's what other EA people do. I say it's an unresolved issue. When I explain it, you'll understand why this is a better explanation. You know 4 or 5 out of this, let's say 8 or 9 or 10 essential things anyone should know to be healthy and happy with the midheaven axis. So you're being told you're supposed to be available, you have to do hard work, you have to be there for others, right? You might feel locked into certain relationships. Or is my job to take care of my mother, ... please help. You know, it's like I got a fortune cookie. I'm trapped in taking care of my mother. So, midheaven square that. Well, what can I do in the world? Or do I have to be here? What is work for? You know, I'll offer you that, you know, what is my private time for? I see, right? Who am I on the inside? I see versus who I am on the outside, MC. That's an unresolved issue, right? Square the nodes. But most importantly, Moon and Saturn are conjunct the North Node. So Moon and Saturn are almost 180 degrees away from the South Node. What that means is that your soul chooses family environments for you to be born to in many lifetimes. That's a South Node. When a planet is conjunct, sorry about that, sorry. I used to. What happened is I got this this spit thing to make sure I don't get the poofy thing. Anyway, so I bumped it. Come on, little Death Star, you can do it. All right. Okay. My microphone's a little Death Star. So opposite your family system, opposite your conditioning in many lifetimes, Moon and Saturn. Well, Moon is happiness. Saturn is being your own authority figure. So when it comes down to it, you haven't been shown how to make yourself happy through work that you choose. I don't want to be too melodramatic, even though my microphone is called the Death Star, because, but you have been essentially shown that you have to submit. That's the word that keeps coming through from one of your guides. Submission. I can't do what I want to do. I have to do what needs doing and what these people or that person expect. So even if you love certain people, such as your mother, you might feel locked in, but it's only habit. Because you haven't seen how yet to set yourself free to do something that matters to you. So what would Moon, Saturn, what would work look like for you? It's a Capricorn midheaven, of course, and Pluto is going to be transiting there soon. So you're being asked to, you know, make some courageous decisions about who you are in the world, midheaven, right? I look at work as, okay, we can think about work in terms of I'm trading my time for money, trading my energy, and I'm going to this building, I'm getting paid or whatever. In my case, I'm, you know, doing readings and healings and classes and stuff. I'm exchanging my time and energy, my effort for money. Let's look at work in terms of what do you want to see more of in the world? What would you like to see more of in your community? What do you think the world needs more of? That gets to the juice of your own inner Saturn. That's question number 1. Question number 2, oh, and lately I've been doing this a lot, so you might hear this repeated in a bunch of videos or audio things lately, but I'm just really focusing on this when Saturn stuff comes up. Number 2, now that I have this thing I would like to see more of in the world, I've identified it. Am I now, or could I through hard work and sacrifice become somebody who brings that to the world? That's number 2. Number 3, if the answer to number 2 is yes, do I want that? So that gets into the idea of community service. What do I think the world needs more of? It gets into the idea of hard work, sacrifice, becoming a better person through effort. Like that's another Saturn idea, number 2. Number 3, do I want it? Ambition. Do I want to achieve that? Do I want to accomplish that? So these are questions you haven't been taught how to ask. And no one who has loved you in many, many lifetimes has shown you how to become the kind of adult or worker or professional or career-minded person that you want to become. So given that, your Saturn is in the 12th house in Aries. Saturn in the 12th house, it's almost like I need to do another podcast just on Saturn in the 12th. I did actually go into this in detail in a karmic profile of Barack Obama, former US President Obama. And I was talking about this in terms of his successor working very hard to undo everything he did. So Saturn in the 12th can have this need to let go of things. Sometimes with Saturn in the 12th, somebody builds something over time and it dissolves or dissipates or blows up in their face. And loss seems part of the story. Giving up, having to surrender something. If, however, you are prepared to let go of something that you create, then it doesn't have to be as bad. If you are working towards something that contributes to the collective in a way that's either anonymous or is spiritual minded or based in compassionate service and work, you might not have to give it up. But there needs to be a 12th house expression of the Saturn. And your Saturn's in Aries to develop the courage to be independent. But it's also about being intuitive in the 12th house, right? What do I want to see more of in the world? Well, what does my compassionate heart want to see more of in the world? That's a way to get into the 12th house Saturn, right? But it's conjunct moon. So happiness too. Do I want to take care of people? Do I want to feed people? Do I want to nurture people? Do I want my work to focus on, social work or helping families stay together? Something about moon, right? But realize that with the 12th house moon Saturn, you're going to be asked to surrender to something, a higher level of truth. You might say, this is what I want to do. And that might not work. And your job is to have faith or develop faith or recover the willingness to have or develop faith. That if you have certain intentions and you're clear that you have the right to be happy, to be your own kind of adult, to go your own way, to do what work matters to you most, hold that intention and be clear and have faith that you matter. You have a bunch of lifetimes of finding out you don't matter because other people need things. You have to sacrifice. But if you're clear that you do matter, then your spirit guides, your ancestors, beings you don't have any idea about, the conspiracy of love between other souls, all these beings start working together to help you get there. So developing faith is important, but you have to undo the residues of the habit of losing faith, because here you are still, cleaning up after these chickens, or this unending chore list, or the gutters are still needing to be cleaned. I got to paint all the houses on the, I have to do this unending chore list, or this never-ending somebody else needs something. So the situation with your mom is bringing up for you, first of all, focused family relationships are focused karmic button pushers, always. So this situation has revealed to you an unhappy karmic pattern. Your job is to slowly and gradually change out of it by making different choices. And I would say start with giving yourself the right to say yes and no, to have boundaries, to have your own time, to, take care of yourself first. And if you need to some way find help for her if she truly does need help. If it's just that she just wants you to be there in her tractor beam, well, then you got to figure that out and say, I'm not available 24/7 for that. If it's that she truly needs help, then you can figure that out. And if I say that and part of you goes, oh, but there's no time or money, or I don't know, realize that's the habit from the past. And that's the part of you who's exhausted, who doesn't have faith that things can get better. And you do have the right as a divine being to do whatever the expletive you want. So that's a huge part of this answer for you. The multiple lifetimes of conditioning that maybe have you feeling weighed down by responsibility, duty, obligation. 6th house stuff. Aries North Node, let's just do a couple things here. Aries North Node says, I have to say no sometimes. I have to say yes to what I like and no to what I don't like. Now, this thing with your mom is a huge thing, but you can say yes and no to little things and help exercise that muscle, work that muscle within you that has been karmically atrophied. Okay. Another little answer, South Node ruler, South Node's in Libra, South Node ruler, which tells me how you show up in many lifetimes as a unique individual. Like basically you're coming from 6th house people operating in a 6th house way, and you think the world's like that. You show up as a Pisces 11th house person, Venus and Pisces in the 11th. You show up conjunct Vesta, devoted to a cause. It's in Pisces, so it could be about compassion, could be about, being of help to populations who need help, or being of service to animals or people or whatever, picking up a cause, right? Working toward a future. But you might feel limited because that Venus is actually opposing Pluto in the fifth. You might feel stuck because of the tractor beam of somebody else's demanding ego. So unwinding some of this is important. You know, I have a thing called Release, a course for healing, which involves this meditative process and also this channel document of giving back energy to somebody else and taking back your own energy. And I'd recommend that for you and focus on your mom and focus on other people. Recognize that. And as far as like broader stuff about work, how to say this? This focused focal point relationship with your mom shows you a bunch of stuff that points to larger themes. So parts of you may feel stuck because you're like in her tractor beam. That's the image your guide keeps giving me. So anyway, this can be changed, but one by one, work on these beliefs. And I recommend highly the Release course for you. It's on tdjacobs.com on the Healing Courses page. Just scroll down until you find it. There's a bunch of stuff on there. It's called Release. Okay, great. Thank you for your question. I hope this has been helpful, Gina. All right, now person number 2, and this is Dorthe or Dorthe. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing. I pronounce it 2 ways. Hopefully one is correct. Anyway, so Dorthe's question is actually looked up online how to pronounce it, and I saw different things. So anyway, I tried. My Libra stuff wants to make sure I pronounce people's names correctly. So anyway, so your question is about, you know, since I'm assuming you saw the Pluto, Saturn, and Capricorn video, an empowering view of Pluto, Saturn, and Capricorn. You say, well, if I'm supposed to let go of something, well, this transit's happening in my 5th house. What am I supposed to be letting go of? So great, let's talk about that. So Pluto's been in your 5th house for a long time. And, you know, since what, like 25 Sagittarius, right? Some years ago. And so you've had, I would say with outer planet transits entering a house, the first 2-3 years maybe might be really active and loud as far as the need to 5th house express yourself, right? To play, to create, to get clear on developing and expressing your opinions, or to be willing to be seen. It involves a lot of things, that the activities and behaviors, ways of living that fall within the 5th house. So Pluto's been doing that for a long time. More recently, Saturn entered there. So Saturn says, let's get real about if you show who you are, if you express yourself. Now, while you have Sagittarius on the cusp of the 5th house, you do have 2 asteroids in Capricorn in the 5th. So part of you might have this kind of inspiration to like be seen sometimes. I have to qualify that with your 4th house Scorpio sun in a moment. But part of you might have that outward impulse, right? Outward focused impulse. But 2 asteroids in Capricorn in the 5th are going to try to make things serious and purposeful, right? Juno's about commitment, and Pallas Athene is about standing up for a cause or being loyal. So your normal way of expressing yourself isn't loud and bombastic, right? Which is what we might think of with a really loud 5th house. But this transit through your 5th house, Saturn Pluto, says, get real about how you show up. Are you willing to be seen? Are you willing to be taken seriously? Capricorn, right? Your Saturn's retrograde. So part of you might not really own being an authority figure, right? You might be one at times or in certain areas of your life, but part of you might, you know, not jump into that role really loudly. That's what Saturn retrograde can do. Your Saturn's also conjunct Lucifer, the asteroid Lucifer, and I would invite you to leave behind the Christian mythology of evil, the devil, Satan, and understand that Lucifer is about learning to bring light by overcoming doubt that we should trust ourselves. So it is about ego, but it's about aligning ego with something bigger than itself, to be of service, to be helpful, to align it with heart or spirit or a sense of truth or something like that, a greater truth than just its own stroking itself, right? Ego gratification. So anyway, you might not own Saturn energy in a certain way because Lucifer's there. Part of you might doubt, well, I don't want to be arrogant. I don't want to be selfish. So, I mean, if I say that, then I'll be a know-it-all. I don't want to be that way. So Pluto, Saturn, and Capricorn are asking you, you know, will you speak up? If your Saturn says, oh, no, no, not me, there's something to work with. Okay, that's number one. Number two, that sun in Scorpio is very sensitive to energy and emotion. And there's a lot, still waters run deep, if you know that phrase. A lot is going on under the surface for you. It's in the fourth house. You don't want to be loud. You might be one of the most private people any of us have ever met. And so that has to be honored, right? Because sun is the center of personality and ideally the part of you that's making final decisions. So the Saturn Pluto in the fifth house of expression, it might not be about saying everything on your mind, but it would be about certain things, having a position, having an opinion, letting yourself be creative, even if it's also productive and practical. Okay, that's the general thing. Now we get more specific. Because this Saturn-Pluto conjunction squares your Jupiter-Venus in Libra in the third house. So square from Pluto-Saturn might press against, or might, try to pull something up from under the surface. Might try to drag something, right? But it basically says Pluto-Saturn are saying to your Venus-Jupiter, you're doing it wrong. So this is what I want to get to. This is just kind of intro, overlook, ways of thinking about these things. Now this is what I want to get to. Venus, Jupiter, and Libra in the third, you might speak things in order to make sure that you are liked and accepted. This is an especially diplomatic, graceful, creative, generous, kind part of you. You do have the Virgo South Node conjunct moon, so you might be picky and critical too. But this Jupiter-Venus knows how to get through to people. If the Jupiter-Venus within you has become chameleon-like, first of all, it would make your Scorpio, Mercury, and your Sun crazy. Scorpio can't deal with being a chameleon, but planets, especially Venus and Libra, don't want to be rejected. So Pluto and Saturn are squaring this third house Venus-Jupiter, asking you to let go of being nice in favor of being honest. Be authentic, even if it's challenging to others and you. You might have, because Mercury is in Scorpio in the third, right? But again, it answers in a way to Sun. Sun is the final decision maker in a person, but that's in Scorpio in the fourth. So you might have that privacy. I don't want to share my opinion. I don't want to be seen. I don't want to make so much noise. I don't want other people knowing my business, etc. Also, Chiron and Aries in the eighth. I might not be so trusting all the time, right? I might not always be willing to be seen. But it's saying to you, Pluto, Saturn are saying, here's a reality check, Dorthe. There are times when your honest opinion may seem abrasive, but is necessary. Meaning there are certain contexts in your life where your contribution, it's more important to be honest, even if blunt, than to be quiet. Now, that said, I'm pretty sure you might also know with Jupiter, Venus in the third that anything can be said with kindness. The Saturn-Pluto square says, make sure you're not editing yourself so much that you're skirting the truth or not holding on to your position. The image I get from your spirit guide here is, let's say you're with friends and you're having a conversation, and one friend thinks that you're speaking the same language, like about an opinion about something. And you might be somebody who doesn't have a need to push your opinions on others, right? Again, Scorpio Sun on the fourth, I can be quiet here, it's fine. But you might have this thing in your gut, this thing in your belly which says, oh, I gotta share my opinion. Well, you need to. Pluto Saturn squaring that says, essentially, even if you lose friends, you have to be honest. Not that you will lose friends, but maintaining your position and sticking to it. That's a Capricorn fifth house idea, and that is intercepted. So part of you might not be sure if you should stick to your guns, right? Stick to your opinion, because people with Libra planets don't want conflict also. And somebody with moon on the south node doesn't want conflict. Chiron and Aries, you don't want conflict. So the Saturn-Pluto is asking you, and the thing is, I don't know for sure. right? But Saturn and Pluto are saying, is there any way that you edit yourself, that you later feel bad about or feel like you needed to say something? Pluto Saturn saying, here's a reality check. Are you owning the power you have to contribute something that's based in your own unique position? Also with the Jupiter Venus is an asteroid called Arjun Suri, based in the story of Arjuna from the Bhagavad Gita, the foundational or seminal text of Hinduism. And this is something I've introduced to astrology. So if you look it up, you'll find my website and maybe one other person who's talked about it a little bit after learning it from me. But if you want the full explanation on Arjun Suri, just for anybody, there's a long chapter at the end of Living Myth, Exploring Archetypal Journeys, one of my first books from about 10 years ago. And it's just kind of like the main description of Arjun Suri, kind of like an explanatory thing that goes into detail. But the idea is one must follow one's inner wisdom. When I have, the most important questions about my life or life, where do I go? Do I go to others who seem like they're gurus or experts or experienced, or do I find an inner sense of truth and connect and align with that? So you are in this position of needing to speak, needing to, communicate, and also how you think and perceive things based in a sense of what is right. It may not be moral, but like what's right for you. I don't mean right and wrong. I mean, what is true for you on the inside? What is really true for you? So Pluto, Saturn are squaring that. So for you, if you shape your communication to avoid conflict, Pluto, Saturn is saying you need to let go of some of that. On the other hand, let's say Venus, Jupiter about creativity, if you keep yourself quiet so you don't risk being seen, Pluto, Saturn is saying, stop holding back on your creativity. Essentially, whatever you do with that Jupiter, Saturn, Jupiter, Venus, Pluto and Saturn is saying, do something new with it. Do it a different way. Do it for different reasons. And the last idea here is how you deal with relationship. Pluto, Saturn saying there's some stuff in relationship that isn't fair, but you might go along with. Stop it. And those, of course, are larger things about creativity and relationship. Those are larger things, but that's my overview for you, Dorthe. Thanks for your interest. Thanks to both of you today for your interest, Gina and also Dorthe. And so you can see what I'm up to at tdjacobs.com. And keep in mind, the Soul's Journey Soundbite is an overview karmic reading for you, your personal chart, including how to change karma, how to understand your multi-life patterns. And the Soul's Journey Soundbite database is a learning tool where you can hear me delineate over 500, almost 600 at this point, charts. It's growing. I have another almost 100 to put in over the next few months. And also the last thing is Evolutionary Astrology Basics 1, which is how you learn about my model of soul, reincarnation, karma, and how to do the 4-step process of karmic analysis. Pluto, which is about, in my world, the empowerment journey the soul sets out for the human. That's step 1 by house, sign, and aspect. Step 2 is the south node of the moon. How has the person been trained to see the world in many lifetimes? So we'll tend to see the world that way, including house, sign, and aspect. And then third step is south node ruler by sign. What's this person's unique role and position in many lifetimes? And then the fourth step, north node. What has this person not learned but needs to learn now, and how to integrate so to be more balanced and well-rounded? So check all that out at tdjacobs.com, and there are some links in the description of this video to those specific things. Thank you, and stay tuned for more. This is the end of Unraveling Karma, episode 29. Take care.